is an exciting piece of news. I always love archaeology having to do with saints and the early church. This is on Sputnik News. Shipwreck of one of Jesus' apostles, St. Paul the Apostle, is found off Malta, Bible scholar claims. Remember, we had the shipwreck, and they were found and they were helped by the locals there, and they lit a campfire for them, and St. Paul was bitten by an asp, and they said, oh, he's going to die because he cannot possibly live. You know, the asp is very common here in the Mediterranean, and it immediately attacks your nervous system, and it shuts down. And that causes death, of course. Well, nothing happened to St. Paul, even though he was bitten by the snake, and that was a miracle for them who watched all this. Now, this is by Svetlana Ekimenko on Sputnik News. St. Paul, one of the central figures, as we know, he was the apostle to the nations. He never met Christ until Christ appeared to him after in a vision on the road to Damascus, where he was blinded by the uncreated light. Now, and he received the light again after he was baptized. Now, it's believed to have been the shipwreck off Malta while en route to Rome, as described in the Acts of the Apostles. Biblical explorers of the Biblical Archaeology, Search and Exploration Base for short, Base Institute, dedicated to the quest for archaeological evidence to help validate that the Bible events are true. They claim to have identified one of the anchors, and thus the real location of St. Paul's shipwreck, described in the Acts of the Apostles. The base founder and Bible scholar Bob Kornuk traveled to Malta, where he claims to have unearthed the one surviving anchor that verifiably dates to the 1st century, with the location matching the description in Acts, one of the books of the Apostles. Actually, the Apostle Luke wrote it. Kornuk claims that St. Thomas's Bay on the southeastern shore of Malta is the most likely location of the shipwreck. There were two other locations that St. Paul landed. One was in Rhodes, and the other one was in the southern area of Crete, in Kalilimenes, safe harbor, good harbors. So, this, unfortunately, St. Paul, he did a lot of traveling, and he was in a couple of shipwrecks. Now, Bayes claims that on his website that 4 anchors were discovered by divers in the 1960s, but only one survived, with the diver not knowing what they had discovered. 2 were melted down for diving weight belts, a 3rd was lost, and the 4th is owned by the widow of one of the divers. Kornuk claims studies were carried out by the University of Malta to verify its Roman origin. He says that one anchor may well be the only artifact mentioned in the New Testament that has been recovered and preserved in our era, nearly 2,000 years after the fact. Bayes also claims that other factors match up with the story of St. Paul's shipwreck, such as the geography of the area resembling the Holy Lore descriptions of the sandy beach and depth of the water. Acts 27:28 says the water was 90 feet deep. Kornuk said, all of these factors taken together argue convincingly not only that today's St. Thomas's Bay is the correct site of Paul's shipwreck, it's also that the 4 anchors recently retrieved from those waters were the very anchors mentioned in Acts. As with any historical claim, the best we can do is examine the evidence in terms of probability, he writes. Malta has long tradition linked to St. Paul, the Apostle, and speculation has long been rife that the location of the Apostle's shipwreck was St. Paul's Bay. The biblical book of Acts of the Apostles claims St. Paul's holy boat was shipwrecked off the coast of Malta. It said that St. Paul was traveling with Jesus Christ's apostle Luke, and as they were headed to Rome to issue an appeal to Caesar, when the ship ran aground in a storm and was smashed to pieces by the waves. According to the Bible, the sailors cut away their 4 ship's anchors and left them at sea in their struggle to survive. Many studies have been carried out over the years to seek substantive proof of the biblical shipwreck of Malta. St. Paul is one of the central figures in the early spread of Christianity. Yes, he was the apostle to the nations. So after, I think he did four missions towards Europe. Europe also, Greece was a part of Europe as well. Now, that's where he started from. Now, after his shipwreck, it's believed he eventually managed to get to Rome, but remained under house arrest as he faced trial. He's believed to have died sometime between 64 and 68 AD, with some accounts claiming he was beheaded in Rome in the order of Emperor Nero. St. Peter and St. Paul have their feast days, their name days on the same day. It's annually on June 29th. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.